Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, I hope everyone had an excellent break. Now, I realize you were really happy to be back in school. You'd rather be back in school than have a second week off. I'll just pretend that that's true. All right, so, no, I know you guys would rather have a second week off. That would be the truth. But you know what? We've got school. We're jumping back into Latin America, so we might as well get started with some vocabulary. But here's the thing, though. We're taking a look at certain aspects of history in Latin America. Before we went on break, we were focused on governments in Latin America and economic systems in Latin America. Well, now we're going to take the next 3-4 weeks and we're going to focus on history, on certain aspects. We can't cover all of history in Latin America, but we're going to take a look at different aspects of history. All right, so different parts, different historical events. That'd be the easiest way to say it. Different historical events in Latin America. And since we're doing that, we might as well take a look at vocabulary. Now, you're going to notice that some of this vocabulary is going to be brand new to you. There's a couple words that I've mentioned before in the past, but most of this is going to be new. So let's go ahead, let's go over it, let's get started. Old World and New World. So here's the easy definition. Old World, by the way, the worlds refer to continents. In this case, Old and New World refer to continents. So Old World, Europe, Asia, Africa. That is Old World. New World, North America, South America, Australia. That's as simple as it gets. Old World, Europe, Asia, Africa. New World, North America, South America, Australia. Now, we call this the Old World because when we think about the oldest civilizations, normally we think of those civilizations that are from Europe, Asia, and Africa. And if you think about it, it was explorers, sailors from Europe that sailed out and discovered North America, South America, and Australia. And I say discovered, obviously it doesn't mean that nobody lived in North America, South America, or Australia. But it was sailors from Europe, sailors from the Old World, that discovered that there were other continents and discovered these new areas and mapped them out. It wasn't people coming from North or South America or Australia that started mapping all of Africa, Europe, and Asia. So that's why we say Old World is Europe, Asia, and Africa. New World, North America, South America, and Australia. All right? Indigenous. Indigenous refers to the ethnic group that is native to an area. In other words, they're from that area. So if I'm a sailor from the Old World and I'm sailing to North America for the first time, well, if I meet Native Americans in what we now know as the U.S., but if I meet them, those would be the indigenous people because they're native to that area. They're from that area. So that's what indigenous means. Colonization. Colonization is going to be very important because you are going to hear this word throughout middle school and throughout high school. So colonization is where you take over a land or territory for its resources. So think about it. That's why I pushed so hard with natural resources. That was in our last set of vocabulary words. If you think about it, it wasn't like Christopher Columbus or any of the other explorers. They weren't when they sailed out, they weren't looking for a vacation spot, right? When people realized in Europe, oh my, there are actually other continents. And we know now North America and South America, when they discovered Australia, all right, when people discovered Australia later on. Again, it's not like people thought, oh cool, vacation spot, I think I'll build a condo. No, people were excited because, hey, here's this brand new territory. Who knows what resources are there that we can then take resources and ship them back to the home country. So that's why so many countries are going to jump on colonization and try to colonize areas, because if you can colonize areas, you can take over a piece of land or a territory, then you can get its resources, ship those resources back to the home country. You can process those resources, sell them, and bring in even more money into your country. So that's colonization, taking over land or territory for its resources, because you want to use those resources to bring more money into the home country. All right? Colombian Exchange. Now, notice the U in Colombian Exchange. In other words, Columbus. We're going to talk about this. I'm going to be very vague with this because we're going to talk about it in another video. But Colombian Exchange is where goods that existed only in Europe but not in North and South America came over to North and South America with the explorers, with the sailors who shipped out from Europe to the New World. And when you had goods that were only in North America and South America, my hand's off camera, so goods that were only in North America and South America, but not in Europe, those goods came over to Europe because of colonization. So does that make sense? Hey, we've got these goods that only exist. So here's a good example. I'll give you a good example. There's a pun for you. All right, so here's a good example. Horses. Horses are originally from Europe. There were no horses in North and South America. But with sailors coming over to the New World, they came with horses. And so now horses are here to this day. So those horses that did not exist in North and South America now come over from Europe to North and South America. Okay, so what comes to Europe from North and South America? Potatoes. You didn't have potatoes in Europe, but potatoes were grown in the Americas. Well, when sailors came over and colonized the area, like, cool, here's this really great hardy plant that you can plant in lots of different soils and climates, and it grows, and this might be a good food resource. And so potatoes are shipped to Europe. And all of a sudden, Europe for the first time has potatoes. That's the Colombian Exchange. So goods that only exist in Europe coming over to the New World, North and South America, goods that only existed in the New World, North and South America, now coming over to Europe. All right? Colombian Exchange. Hopefully you guys can still see this. Transatlantic slave trade. All right? Long term, but here's your key. Trans means to cross from one point to another. All right? So transatlantic means to cross from one side of the Atlantic to the other. Slave trade should be pretty easy to know what that term is. So this is where you were shipping slaves from one side of the Atlantic, which is Africa, to the other side of the Atlantic, which were the Americas, North and South America and the Caribbean. And so we're going to talk more about the transatlantic slave trade later. Roman Catholic. Now, why is Roman Catholic here? Because Roman Catholicism came over to the New World with these sailors, especially sailors from places like Spain, Italy, Portugal. They're going to be the section of Christianity that is called Catholicism, Roman Catholic. All right. Easiest way to talk about Roman Catholicism is this: Roman Catholicism is one of two main branches of Christianity. The other branch is Protestant or Protestantism. Okay, so Roman Catholicism is one main branch. Protestantism is the second main branch. What's the big difference? Protestantism tends to focus on Scripture, meaning the Bible, as the main source or rule of their faith, the main infallible rule of their faith. Roman Catholicism believes in Scripture, but the Roman Catholic Church ends up being the foundation of the infallible foundation of their faith. So in other words, if Scripture and the Roman Catholic Church disagree, you go with the Roman Catholic Church and Catholicism. If Scripture and your church disagree in Protestantism, you go with Scripture. Now, by the way, I just made that really, really simple for this video. This is a hotly debated subject and has been a hotly debated subject for about half a millennium, I should say. So about over 500 years, this has been a huge debate. So I'm giving you the simple version of that. So two main branches of Christianity, Protestantism and Roman Catholicism. If there's a difference between Scripture and the Roman Catholic Church, in Catholicism, you go with the Roman Catholic Church. If they're in Protestantism, if there's a difference between Scripture and the Church, you go with, but notice that I just said the church is in like whatever your local church is, you go with Scripture. That's the easiest way to sum it up in less than a minute. All right? So these are your vocabulary words. If you have any questions, as usual, I will be on conference. Hey, I'm happy to see and talk to you guys again. I'm more than excited to talk to you guys on conference later on. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Again, if you have any questions, let's conference. If you can't make conference, email me. All right? Take care, guys.